Third party right clause. One of the fundamental principles of contract law it's uh, privity of contract. The principle said that only parties to a contract may enforce the term of the contract. A third party to a contract is anyone who's not a party to it. Enforcement might take the form of claiming for damages arising from the breach of contract, um, an injunction to prevent an anticipated breach of contract by one of the contracting parties, a specific performance of the contract. Um, the contract third party rights changes the law of pre privity. I don't know how to say that. I'm sorry. Of contract, third parties might now enforce the term of a contract where an expired right has been graded to do so in the agreement or the contract confers a benefit to a third party. Categories of third party benefits. Um, a third party beneficiary it's either a donee or a creditor. A donee beneficiary benefits from a contract gratuitously. That is not in exchange for service he has provided. For example, assume that I don't know John and Dante are in the contract. Um, I don't know. John enters to into a contract with Dante. He's a roofer, providing Dante will proving that Dante will I don't know do the roof. My bad. I'm sorry. Let's say that John enters into a contract with Dante, a, a landscaper, pro- prove prove providing that Dante will shovel the snow of John's neighborhood. Um, I don't know, Sam's driveway. Every time it snows more than 3 inches, Sam's is not a party to the contract, but he's an intended third party beneficiary who will gratuitously benefits from John's contract with Dante. Um, Contract rights of a third party beneficiary. But donee and creditor beneficiaries can enforce contract rights, but to do so, both must be identified beneficiaries. Um, the name beneficiary on a life insurance policy is a classic example of an intended beneficiary under the life insurance contract. In general, an intended beneficiary is one who is identified in the contract, like, and the one who receives performance directly from the promisor, or circumstances demonstrate that the promisee will give the beneficiary the benefit from the contract. Can a third party right be cancelled? Unless the contract expressly provides a right to cancel or vary without the third party's consent, it will generally not be possible for the contracting parties simply to agree to cancel the contract or vary a third party's right without the prior consent of a third party. If the third party had communicated his uh, assent to the term in question or has otherwise relied on it, the court of now I'm gonna talk about delegation versus assignment. What's the difference? Um, Delegation occurs when a party to a contract transfer the authority and responsibility for fulfilling a particular contractual duty to another party. Delegation is not concerned with the transfer of contractual rights, and assignment assignment occurs when the original party to a contract transfers the right and duties of the contract to another party. When is assignment permissible? Generally, parties are able to assign their rights, but some exceptions still happening. The assign assignment may not increase the obligations for not the other party. Parties do have the ability to state in the contract that assignment are not allowed. Um, well, now I'm gonna talk about delegation. Delegation is the act of giving another party the responsibility of carrying out the performance agreed in the contract. Um, the liability is transferred to the delegator from the delegatee. The delegatee is only liable to the obligee if the delegatee receives considerations from the delegator. The process of assignment. With a contract, each party involved holds certain rights. The when the party referred when the when the party referred to as the assigner gives his or her rights to the party known as the assignee, this is cancelled. This is called the process of assignment. When you cannot assign contractual obligations. Most of the time, the parties involved in a contract are able to freely assign their rights, but there are times when that isn't an option. Um, well, what is delegation? When you transfer duties you have contractually agreed to perform, that's the delegation of your obligations, with the difference between delegation and assignment being that you aren't transferring rights, you're delegating obligations to different parties. Delegating duties you have contractually agreed to is typically permitted, but there are times when delegation isn't allowed. When the delegation of obligations would alter the scope of the agreement, it isn't allowed. When the promisee to repay a debt usually can be delegated. And delegation is not allowed if the parties involved in the contract draft that into the agreement. Is third party consent required for assign a delegation? Third party consent is not required for a contractual assignment, which is linked to the rights into an enforceable agreement. A delegation, however, does require that the person being assigned the task be not only aware, but they must explicitly accept the responsibility being assigned. The terms for this type of delegation is the delegation of the performance of a duty, while the consequences of assignment and delegation are not the same. The terms can be used in an interchangeable manner when consequences are involved. Consequences of assignment. The assignee rights to the assignee's right to feel a suit against the obligor if performance falls short. The obligor sets the same protection against the assignee that the assigner gets. The obligor payments to the assigner may stay in effect until the obligor knows about the assignment, and a contractual modification set up between the obligor and the assigner remains in effect if the obligator was unaware of the assignment. Consequences of delegation. Delegation's consequences include the liability falls to the party delegating the obligations to another party. The delegantee only has an obligation to obligees when considerations of some form of payment is received from the delegating party. When assignments won't be enforced. A clause in the contract prohibits assignment. Assignment can take place if they immediately alter what's expected under the contract. If the assignment affects the expected performance as outlined in the contract, lowers the value of return, or increased risk for the other contract party, it's unlikely that any court will enforce the agreement. If any assignment violates public policy or law, it won't be enforced. When is delegation not allowed? Delegation is allowed in most of contractual agreements. However, duties cannot be assigned in situations like the delegation would change the entire nature of the agreement. The delegation involves a promisee to pay a financial debt. The parties have agreed in their original contract that delegation is not allowed, and delegation would involve a result in violation of any type of law.